never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house. That's right. And we have a tea time on Friday. That's right. We had one this morning at 11 a.m., a rescheduled tea time. And it was really an incredible tea time. So be sure to check out that tea time. Choose Love movement about school shootings and what the mother has done since she lost her son. But this afternoon, we have the incredible Laurie Seymour in the house, and we're going to talk about the Baca Institute and her book, Unconditional Remembrance, and all that good stuff. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and all the podcast platforms, Listen Note, Podbean, Spotify, all those good platforms, and YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to Miss Liz's YouTube channel, give that a quick subscribe so that you can see all these incredible tea times, because they do make a difference for my guests and for somebody who resonates with the topics that come to the table. This afternoon's tea time is going to be remember the truth of who I am. Everything is energy. Abundance is love. That is the tea that we are serving with Laurie today. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro, and let's get Laurie in here. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussions, you're welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly on my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where conversations expand awareness and invite us to connect to something deeper within ourselves. Today's guest brings us into the space where intuition meets intelligence and where connection goes beyond what we can see. Please join me in welcoming Laurie Seymour, MA, author of Unconditional Remembrance, Your Connection to Source, founder and CEO of the Baca Institute, and a pioneering voice in quantum connection and conscious leadership. With a background that bridges psychotherapy, Fortune 100 business systems, and over 25 years of metaphysics mastery, Laurie guides visionary leaders and individuals to access their inner wisdom and create potential through direct connection with Source. Her work reminds us that we are not separated from what we seek. We are already connected. The question is, are we listening? So grab your cup and lean in today. Tea Time is about inner guidance, creative intelligence, and remembering the connection that has always been within you. And let me get Laurie in here and let's spill some tea.
I love it. Tea, truth and awareness. We're serving, that's a great cup of tea to serve.
Right? We serve truths at this table, and I love truths. So, Laurie, let me start with how I get all the guests to open up. Who was Laurie as a little girl, and who's Laurie now?
Oh, let's see. As a little girl, well, there's almost a before and after, even in my little girl part of me. So,
Oh,
meaning before my father died, just before I was 7, I think I was a pretty kind of normal, typical kid. I had 3 brothers. I played outside. It was that time where you could just do that and be allowed to kind of roam around a bit. And when my father died, I lost the person that really was my anchor to feeling loved. And it was sudden, it was unexpected. It was really a different kind of experience for me in my life. Um, and I really withdrew a lot from the world. Not overtly, but I think at that deepest part of myself, it's like what I didn't feel loved anymore. And
is
so
that
you
what got
know,
is that what got you into what you do today, Laurie?
boy, yes and no. I mean, I think I always was looking for what was more, what was truth, because that truth is really a big word for me. Um, and I felt this kind of 2 aspects of life. One was what I felt inside, like some kind of sense of what was possible, what was real. But it didn't show up at all in my outer world. So I doubted myself a lot. So I grew up doubting myself and my own inner awareness.
That outer
That
world,
pushed me
it
into
plays
being
on
a
us.
psychotherapist.
Right? The outer world always plays on us, and then the inner world, we second guess it.
Absolutely. And I second guessed it to a really big extent, but there was still always that thing in me that pushed me forward that said, explore, look, search, be curious. And that took me into being a psychotherapist first and foremost because I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Laurie, let's get into your tea, and then we're going to get into the book. I'm going to pull up the book so everybody can see the incredible book we're going to talk about today and this afternoon. Laurie, you gave me remember the truth of who I am. Everything is energy, abundance is love. Why did you give me that for your tea?
Well, because most of all, I think it's true. It is when we remember who we really are, part of that remembrance is remembering that we are a part, an energetic part of the whole universe. And I mean that quite literally. It's why we can, when we get really quiet and sensitive to our environment, we can start sensing things that we ordinarily don't when we're just attending to the outer world. And then that feeling of that knowingness of being loved, knowingness that we are connected to source, and that doesn't ever go away, even when we forget it. I forgot it. I absolutely forgot it.
And I get where you said, remember the truth. So remember the truth of who you were.
Yeah. And not the truth, not what's told to us about who we are. Because that's what most of us pay attention to is we're looking for acceptance, we're looking for approval, we're looking to feel connected. And that's all fine. But as long as it keeps us focused on the outer world, we don't go inside to where the real, not only the real truth, but that which can sustain us.
Oh, yeah. You know, and talking about the inner truth is scary because the outer world judges the inner world a lot.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Whether we judge it, which we are likely to do, or someone else is judging it. It's that sense of we're listening almost for, is the approval there? Am I okay? Am I loved? And am I going to be able to do what I want to do in my life? And the outer world really cannot give you any of that. Even when it does, it, so many of my clients have experienced this in their lives that, yes, I got the approval, but it was empty because it didn't touch that inner part that was longing for that from myself.
Yeah. It's that small, small gratification, a short-term win, but then
Mm,
there's something still missing, right? Uh,
exactly.
we have a
Exactly.
question that just came in here. I
Sure.
want to get it out to you, Laurie. It's how can beginners start reconnecting with their inner guidance?
Great question. And in a way, even when people think, "Oh, I've got it down," it's still important to go back to the basics. And some of the basics, some of the how can beginners start is by practicing getting quiet, even if it's just for a few minutes at a time, and just noticing what do I notice? Is it, how's my body feeling? How am I feeling? What's the quality of my thoughts? Because as I start paying attention and getting quiet, that starts tuning me into, oh, well, I have an idea about this or a thought about that. It's not to immediately act on that, but it's almost to, well, it is to make note of it, to kind of explore, be curious. When you get an instinct about something or someone, pay attention to it. Explore it. See, well, why is this coming up now? Not from a logical, linear place of questioning it, but from that softer, more receiving place, receptive place in oneself.
Well, we have a question here about, and we're going to bring up the book in a few seconds here. What does unconditional remembrance feel like in a daily life?
Wow, that's another great question. For me, it's like this. Well, a lot of metaphors I can use. It is somewhat like riding a wave because life changes continually. Our inner guidance changes because life is always changing, and the elements that go into any decision or action, those things are always changing. When I'm feeling most in tune, when I'm feeling in tune, there's a flow in my body, a feeling of flow. And people talk a lot about, oh, I'm in the flow. But there's how can I want to differentiate between the flow of that's kind of part of our expectation. Oh, I'm feeling really good and I'm happy and la la la. And that almost quieter sense of, oh, let me see which direction I need to go in. A number of years
It's
ago, I
kind of like in the
created.
bend in the road, right, Laurie? Like
Yes,
when you
yes,
get to the
yes,
bend of the road, do you go left or do you go right? And you
exactly.
pause.
You pause and you tune in. So it's not about reading an outer map, but it is learning how to read that inner map because we all have that capacity. And I know people will say, "Oh, I'm just not sensitive," or "I'm not intuitive," or "I'm not." But everybody has this capacity. Some have it more naturally than others or easier. It was not easy for me. For all that, I had this kind of remembrance that was always there. That still wasn't easy for me because I discounted it so much. So that's part of it is to notice when you're discounting what you're sensing, what you're aware of. Well, I should like this person. They seem great. They seem they've got great charisma, and yet there's something in the pit of my stomach that is tight.
That intuition,
Yeah,
it's the open mind and the closed mind. The intuition, the gut is that kind of block, right?
and it's trying to say something to you if only you would listen. But it's a
That's the
quiet
thing, we
voice.
don't listen.
Right, right. Or we override. Well, I knew how many times have you said, you, Liz, or you, the audience, how many times have you said to yourself, I knew this was gonna happen, and I did it anyway. And personal will. That's our personality that says, well, I really wanted to do that. Well, okay. That's how we learn lessons.
And we all have life lessons that we have to learn.
Mhm.
We all have to learn to pause. And that's why I love tea time, because it gives us time to pause. It gives people time to
Mhm.
reflect on where
Mhm.
they want to go. And that's why I ask everyone, all the guests, what their tea is, because it gives them the time to pause to think of who they are. Not who I'm telling you are, who you're telling me you are. And that's how we get to know each
Mm.
other.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
we have a question that is almost similar to what just came in, but what does unconditional remembrance truly mean in everyday life?
And that's a different question. And I
Just a,
appreciate
just a
that.
little,
It's a
just a
little
little
different,
tweak, right?
but it's an important distinction. What I mean by it is that remembrance that we are connected with what I call source, with presence. We can call it God, we can call it whatever we want. We can simply call it the universe. But what I mean by that is that because it's like we are an aspect of the whole universe, and we're a hologram. It's all contained within us. The whole universe is contained within us. We don't have to think about that. We don't have to even understand that. But that sense of remembering that I am loved, remembering that this support, the universe is holding me. And I can always go inside and say, what do I need to do about this? That's where the inner guidance comes in. It's that remembering that you can ask, you can receive, you can can be connected with what it is your next step is. But it takes such great surrender,
Yeah.
because great surrender, not to anyone, not even to anything, but to that part of you that does know, and the part of you that wants to go deeper, that wants to have that bigger picture. My experience is that source has a much bigger picture for me than I might have for myself. And that when I receive inner guidance that says, well, here's your next step, some part of my personal will or some part of my personality will say, it will go like, holy mackerel, I mean, no, whoa, that's too big, or how
Put the
do I
brakes
do
on.
that? Yeah, put the brakes on, exactly. And some question I've asked myself over and over is, why would I want to discount that? If I'm here with a purpose, and I do believe we are, um, and that's different for every single person. But if I'm here with a particular purpose, I want to know more about that, and I want to step into that. So when source tells me, yes, this is a yes to move forward with this. I'm going off, for example, to a conference in about a week and a half, and I was asked to do a big closing piece of this conference, and it was like, okay, and it means I have to be away from home, step out, travel, all of those things, which are fine. And yet, because there's also the part of me that wants to, be at home, and I've got two little grandkids that I'd love to go and see, and just those aspects of life that push you beyond what is comfortable.
Yeah.
But what is comfortable is only what is known. And I'm always been drawn to what is not known, what is unknown, because I feel like that's my path, is to keep exploring, keep being curious, keep looking at what is next.
Well, we have questions that are popping in here, and I'd like to get them all out, and then I
Sure.
want to jump into the book.
Okay.
uh, the next question we have here are, what are simple ways to tap into our inner guidance daily?
Hmm. The biggest one is setting aside some time to get quiet, and then to start knowing what that feels like. because all of this I talk about from a perspective of a real bodily experience. In other words, how does truth feel in my body? How does the flow feel in my body? How does love feel in my body? Because love is not an emotion. I mean, people get caught up in that part of it. But for me, love is that exquisite feeling of being connected. And so tapping into our inner guidance requires some time away, meaning time inside. And it doesn't have to be long, but it does take developing it, a commitment to wanting to know, and a commitment to taking action. Because if we only stay in the place of asking and never following through, it's almost like the universe says, well, why would I give you anything else? You're just doing this as a mental exercise. So it's got to be from a deeper place than a mental exercise.
Well, it's kind of taking the walk, right? You can't just talk. You got to walk. You got to do the action. You got to unbuckle that seat and you got to move.
You got to move. You've got to take action. And some people are more inclined to take action kind of immediately. Then it's maybe pause and say, how does this action feel? Not is it scary, but underneath the fear, is there a feeling of yes? Is there a feeling of flow? And be curious. That's part of the inner guidance, is be curious about what's happening for you rather than having judgment about it.
Yeah, have some adventure.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. I think you and I are aligned in that.
I think so too. I could feel the energy of us in connecting.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get this question out, and then I'm going to pull up your book, and then I'm going to get back to the rest of the questions that are coming in. How does quantum connection actually work in real life?
I almost want to ask for a corollary, what is it you're really wanting to know? Because I feel like there is something there.
Yeah, do you want me to pull you a card?
No. I mean, for the questioner, for Anita, I'd love to know, what is she really curious about? So how it works in real life, in everyday life, is that, as I said earlier, we are an aspect of the universe. We are that hologram. So everything that's present in the universe is also present in us. When you think about a quantum leap,
yes,
the idea of taking a quantum leap is something that's like it happens spontaneously, perhaps really quickly. In physics, when we try and track a particle that moves at that quantum speed, we cannot. We are unable to track it. So it may go from A to Z back to D. We can't track it. And a quantum leap is like that too, because we cannot know all of the parts of that journey. But it also takes, I talked about surrender. It also takes trust. So when you feel that sense of yes, when you feel that sense of flow, then it's okay, that's the inner guidance. And that's that quantum connection, your connection with the quantum universe, which in essence means that you contain everything. That's how we can sense what's going on with someone else, even what's going on the other side of the world. We don't have to, some people are so sensitive to all of that, they have to learn how to bring that in, and so that they're not getting all of that kind of information. But on your daily life, to pay attention to those sensings. I had somebody last night, a client who was saying, well, I'm not intuitive. That's where she started. And then she was talking about how in her job, she's always sensing what's going on with somebody, whether they're telling the truth or not, who they are, do they have integrity? And I said, well, you are connected. That is your intuitive self. That is your inner guidance. But if we override that if we constantly listen to someone that's saying, well, that's just your thing, that's not true. When we don't develop that trust in our own quantum connection. And we each have a slightly different, each have a different way of connecting with the universe. That's the quantum connection styles, the quiz that I developed is a kind of beginning point to say, what's my usual way of connecting with the universe? What superpower does that give me? And what's the learning edge that I have with that?
I like that, the learning edge. I'm going to bring up your book now, Laurie. If you want to talk about I like the colors. I like the flow. And I also know that I also know that one of those colors is one of your favorite colors is peach. But can you describe the cover and the title and how you came about putting it together?
The cover is actually a painting by a friend in Holland. Her name is Annette, and she is a painter and she's a spiritual teacher. She's a very connected person. Let's just put it that way. And I've always loved her artwork. I remember interviewing her a long, long time ago. And I, for a long time, had the sense of there's probably a painting of hers that I would love to use as a book cover. And then when it became time, I just started looking at her artwork, and this is what I was drawn to, because it's that portal sensing of it. We enter into the connection, and your connection to source kind of speaks for itself. But that unconditional remembrance is really about remembering with no holds barred, remembering without judgment, remembering without expectation, and remembering that essence of who you are and that you are loved.
Wow. I just like the flow because it feels like you're like falling into a hole, but a peaceful hole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I like that it's a painting. I would have never guessed it was a painting.
Yeah. I think she calls them spirit paintings or something like that. I'm forgetting right now.
Wow. Now that you say the artwork, now I can see the flow of the paint. And sometimes it takes us a little bit to see the image.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that about it. It's not cut and dry. It's not an AI generated image. It's something that's real and that came from someone's own inner guidance system.
Right. Well, let's get back to some of these questions that we have that came in. The next one that came in is, can anyone develop conscious leadership, or is it learned over time?
Well, I'd say yes to both sides of that question, meaning probably anyone can develop conscious leadership, and it is learned over time. In other words, because consciousness is learned over time, consciousness is experienced and evolved over time. And the more we develop our own consciousness, the more that we step into who we are, that integrity of heart is what guides us, is what allows us to step forward and to be in that place of receiving, meaning receiving the guidance and acting upon it. And not because there's so much right now about all the things that people are not doing that we thought they were great people, and they may be great people, but yeah, they also have some other things to look at, other aspects. But the willingness to have discernment about your own direction, your own guidance, and who we follow, and how it is that we act within our own leadership capacity.
Well, it's deeply important on who we follow as well.
It is,
because
indeed.
It has a lot to do with the energy, a lot to do with the connection.
It does.
Everything is energy.
That's one of my statements. Everything is energy.
Everything is energy. Like, and the intuition is energy, and the mind is energy. It all goes back to energy.
Mhm.
and coming back to understanding the inner self. I like talking about the inner self a lot because the world is scared of the inner self because
Mm.
it focuses on the outer self, the
Yes.
outer image, the outer reputation, without the character of the inner, you know.
Well, I'm curious about that because I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And we're sent to school, and it's like we're trained to look outside. We're trained
Mhm.
in the linear progression of the world. And unfortunately, that's only a piece of the puzzle. That's only the piece of reality. And I'm not saying anything about letting that go. It's let's bring that in and let's go deeper into our own experience and into the wisdom of the heart and the truth of the heart and what it's attempting to teach us about. And that brings in all of, what we came in to learn about.
Absolutely. Uh, Let me get this one out to you, Laurie. It's from Nick, and it is, what is the first step to aligning with our creative intelligence?
Mm. Really asking that question is similar to aligning with our inner guidance. So creative intelligence for me is source intelligence. Now, it's not, and that's not something that's out there. While we can talk about it that way, we even talk about God as, up there, kind of in the sky.
Up there, way up there.
If God, yeah, way up there. But if we are presence, if that is an aspect of who we are, if the creative intelligence of the universe is a part of us. And my experience, my research is that it absolutely is. So then tapping into inner guidance, tapping into our creative intelligence for me becomes even more important for whatever it is that we're creating, whatever it is that we want to do, however it is that we're moving in life, and in our relationships with our partners, our children, our friends. Because what I'm witnessing, I imagine you are too, uh, is all the separation in the world
Yes.
and the othering, the oh well they're not okay, or I'm better, or even I'm worse, whatever it is,
The division.
the division, the division. And this is about remembering the connection. Because when I remember the connection with source, then I open the door to all kinds of inspiration that is otherwise I don't pay attention to. It takes opening the doors. It takes stepping through the portal. And that takes courage. It takes courage and willingness and trust and surrender.
Absolutely. I love that word surrender. We don't hear that word enough.
And again, it's not surrender to anything external.
Mm.
So we don't have to join a religion. We don't have to join anything. Um, we do surrender to what I think of as the co-creation aspect of life. And what I mean by that is if I think that I'm responsible for making my big idea real, and I've been there, thinking I've got to do it all, then I get exhausted. It's so stressful, and I limit myself from those moments of just pure inspiration. Or I get inspired, I have this inspiration, and that's the co-creation, because it's not just your personality that's coming up with that. That's you receiving from the bigger picture, from source, from this, from your connection with the universe. What I see entrepreneurs doing, conscious leaders doing over and over and over again is then, okay, now I got to get going. I've got the inspiration. Now I've got to get going. And they forget that source is still available to ask for guidance from. A few years ago, I developed a program called Inspiration into Action because it feels so, and it still feels so important for people to recognize and learn how to stay connected with their own co-creative intelligence. Because then you're building out a team, let's say. And yes, you're doing your due diligence, you're doing your research on people, but then ask. If you're deep into developing your own connection with source, with your inner guidance, then you get to ask, what do I need to do here? Is this person the right person for the team? You're not asking AI because AI is limited on what it knows. So who are you going to ask? When you develop that relationship with source, you're developing something so deep, profound, and unlimited.
Yeah. Let's talk about the next question. How do we move beyond linear thinking in a practical way?
Well, first, I think it's to recognize that linear thinking is how we were taught. It's what was developed in school. When forgetting about AI for a moment, when we've gone to Google to research something, we're saying, okay, tell me about this. How can I do that? But to develop our own capacity for paying attention, for moving beyond linear thinking, is to first of all recognize that linear thinking is just a piece. It's not going to give us that quality of inspiration that allows us to soar beyond, allows us to create the genius idea. And so practically speaking, it's first developing that your own not understanding, but your own awareness of what that feels like in your body, and then practicing asking. So a number of years ago, I wrote just this small little ebook around with exercises, with experiences that you could do to tap into your own inner knowing, tap into your inner guidance system. Simple kinds of things like taking a painting that you might have on the wall and telling a story about it, looking at it, getting a sensing of it, but then turning it it's on its side, seeing what you notice then, seeing what it speaks, how it speaks to you then, coming up with a story about it then, and trying that from all its different angles so that you just start unlocking this means that, and therefore I have to go in X direction. And knowing that your expectations may be getting in the way of you tapping into more of your own creative genius.
I always say this to my children, we're our worst enemies sometimes.
Yeah.
We put those roadblocks in front of ourselves.
Exactly.
Because of fear, because of the unknown, because of the linear and the expectations of the outside world that has been taught to us as well, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And knowing that there is a part of the brain, everybody's neurology is a human being, that wants to keep you safe and that tries to keep you safe. It's the amygdala. And so that amygdala thinking says, that saber-toothed tiger may be around that next bend. Do not go there.
Yeah.
When in fact, maybe around the next bend is the person that's going to introduce you to the person that's going to fund your big idea, or the love of your life, or, so many different possibilities. It's like the universe is really conspiring to present you with what you want.
Yeah.
But if we're asleep at the wheel, can't happen.
Yeah. We have to open the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And not just our eyes on our body, but the eyes within.
The eyes within. That's beautifully said, Liz. Yes.
It kind of goes with the next question of what we're talking about here is from Daniel. It says, what blocks us from remembering our true connection to source?
I almost want to say something. And I don't really mean it in a flip way, but will the questioner please question their question? Meaning, we stop ourselves. We get afraid. We think that if we follow our path, or our instinct, that we're going to get in trouble, because sometimes we have in the past. Those old patterns, and really all of it has to do with patterning. Those old patterns get in our way. But when we can recognize, oh, this is how I've always done this. This is coming from an old way of seeing things. Then I get to kind of play in that for a little bit and question it. Like, do I really believe this? Is this really true? And maybe it was true 30 years ago. But is it true now? And what could happen if I step into this? What could happen if I step into this that's occurring to me to do? What are the possibilities? And to be more invested in the possibility, in the potential, than in the fear, than in staying safe.
And potential, there's so much potential being wasted because of fear.
Yes. And I was a very fearful person. Because I didn't feel grounded in myself. I didn't feel connected within myself. And so I didn't have anything inside to really rely upon. And it was that connection with Source that I finally, now came to. That gave me that sense of, it's confidence, yes, but it's much more than confidence. It's the willingness to step into that which I don't already know.
Yeah. Well, Laurie, we have a question here that came in from David, and it's, how can entrepreneurs apply these ideals to their business growth?
I love that question, because that is so much of my work is with what I call conscious entrepreneurs, meaning entrepreneurs that know there's a bigger picture. That's all I mean by that. It's as you develop your own connection with your inner guidance system, it's your inner GPS, then you can ask all of the questions that you have about each step of what it is you're creating and what it is you're to do next. So I do a twice a week, what's called Tereya meditation, and I do it live online twice a week. And these are very short, simple experiences. It's 45 minutes. I do a little teaching, we do a silent meditation, and then people get to share. But because the quality of the meditation is all around the energetic quality, connecting you with your own inner guidance system, connecting you with Source, or activating, they're not really connecting you, it's activating your connection. People come up with so many amazing things as entrepreneurs. And I'd say probably everybody that comes to these is an entrepreneur in one way or another. People have said things like, I just got my brand colors. Wait, wow. I just got a whole sensing of what my new project is, or what the elements of this program that I'm creating, what the elements are. And I'll see people at the end, and I'm trying to get people to share in a very short period of time. And I see people writing furiously after the meditation is over, because they've just gotten something that's so important for them in terms of what it is they're creating as entrepreneurs.
Well, it's the release.
It's a release.
Kind of like the blockage being open, right?
I don't know if it's quite that. Let me just see how I think of it more as not as a block, but it's opening a door. It's less of a blockage and more of like, oh, I was able to step into these activating energies because I'm working with people energetically during the time of the meditation. And it's almost like this is the gift because you were available to receive. And that's another one of those things that's so important. Am I available to receive? If I'm asking and I'm not available, I'm going to be disappointed because I'm not going to receive anything. But as I'm available to receive, as I allow myself to go beyond the pushing and the expectation and the judgment, then it's like, oh, and that great idea just is able to come into your awareness.
So kind of like receiving a key.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
I put the two together, the door and the key. Knock, knock here. Who's got the key?
Knock, knock, right. And the key for me, the way I work, the keys are energetic. And they're energetic in the sense of, so I'm working with the activation. But if someone's just, checking out, or sitting there in judgment of like, well, this isn't working, I can't do anything about that.
Well, you got the wrong key.
Or they don't even want to really open the door.
Right? Yeah. And there's a lot of closeness in today's society, and it's hard to open. I think it's the fear of being open, like the vulnerability of opening oneself. And
here the vulnerability is starting out from, I don't know. I do really want to know. And it's not the vulnerability necessarily to another person. That's a whole other conversation. It's the vulnerability to allowing yourself to explore and be open to something that was unknown to you before, and to get curious about what it is you don't know, because there's so much. I don't think I'll ever, I know I will never finish that exploration.
Yeah.
Until the next time or the next time after.
Well, I want to get this one out to you, and it's from Mac. What inspired Laurie to explore this path so deeply?
It's a combination of things, really. To begin with, it was that kind of setup of knowing that I knew something, but also so committed to believing what the outside world was telling me. And that set up such a friction in me that I just kept looking. I mean, it took me into first being a psychotherapist, because that seemed like the ideal way of exploring who are we and what's our makeup and how do we, what's our potential? I've always been more interested in what's our potential than simply what's my problem. And that took me to graduate school and looking at graduate school in humanistic psychology. As I moved on, it started taking me into realms of energy, of exploring energy. I was initiated as a grand master of a particular lineage, Terea. It took me into exploring metaphysical concepts and physics and energy in that perspective, in that way. And it was quite a long time ago now where I had the experience with a particular teacher that I detail in my book, where I finally felt that sense of connection with Source, that knowingness that I was loved, that all of the self-doubt dropped away. I couldn't deny that. And I came to know that as truth.
So, Laurie, let's get a little bit more into the book, because we really didn't talk about what's in the book. So what can people find in your book, and what do you want the readers to get from it?
Boy, what I want more than anything is for people to start to feel that sense of desire for the connection and knowing that they can have that. So the book is for me, in a way, there's this message to the world, but it's through my own lens. But it's a lens that I think a lot of other people can relate to. And then there's a lot of questions, like reflection questions, exercises, stories, but ways that you can look at the whole sensing of what I mean by unconditional remembrance and how that can take you into a fundamentally different place of loving your life and being willing to step into the big picture that's available, the big picture for you. Your picture is going to be different than mine, but you have yours, even if it's not something that you've fully welcomed into your reality.
Well, Laurie, we have a question that came in here, and it says, what does unconditional remembrance truly mean, and why is remembering more powerful than learning?
Ah, we came into this world as a part of Source. So, from this perspective, from this way of looking at things, we came in connected. It's not that we have to like learn it or even discover it. It's that we came in that way. And then because life being what it is, we forgot. Some people stay with that remembrance. I was not one of them. I kept a piece of it, but it also set up all this like confusion in me because I didn't know why I'd feel one way, but yet my experience of life was so different from that. So with that initial connection, that's what we're remembering. So we can't learn ourselves or learn our way to it. We have to remember it. We have lots to learn. And part of the learning is, oh, I think I came in to forget and then to remember. So I needed, if I can think about it that way and say it this way, I needed that loss, that early loss. The way I look at that now is not with grief, but with all that it showed me, all that it took me so that I could walk this path, so that I could show it to others, not so that they walk my path, but that they can perhaps appreciate what it is that their own journey taught them or is teaching them and use that as the next step and the stepping stone to discovering what's next. So it's not learning how to walk it or learning a new skill. Sometimes we need to learn a new skill. I have nothing against that. But from what I'm talking about and what I'm focusing on is that remembering of whatever it is that we forgot of that basic truth of our humanity and our connection to Source.
Absolutely. And sometimes we just got to pause and we got to just remember. Loss for us at the time, it's grief, right? And it's painful and it hurts.
Mhm.
But when you look back, that loss actually is a lesson in order to see if you stay in that loss or you move forward from that loss.
Yes. Yeah. And as a young child, I didn't have any guidance around that from in my world. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Now I'm actually right this very minute in a similar place. My oldest brother passed a couple weeks ago, and it was unexpected and it was shocking. I mean, my body still feels the shock. And yeah, I do feel the grief. And I also have been getting these different awarenesses of what his journey, what his assignment was in this life, what his part in my life was and has been. And there's also a part of me right next to, side by side with the grief of, oh, he is on to his next assignment. And isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Well, because we're stuck in our loss, right? That we don't realize that they're on their journey.
Yes. Yeah.
And then once we get through the grief, and you never really get over grief.
No, it doesn't have to go in order
You just
to have
learn how to live differently in that grief because grief never changes. It still hurts. It doesn't matter if it's 20, 30, 40 years ago, it still hurts.
Mhm.
But it gives us that lesson of looking back and seeing how much we transform from that grief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, Laurie, let's share a little bit, because we're almost up here with our time. Talk about the Baca Institute a bit, so people can reach out to it,
The
and just
Baca
spell out
Institute.
and just spell out the website so that my audio listeners can come out and
Sure,
chat with you.
sure. Yes, it's the Baca, and it's BACA Institute.com. And the Baca Institute, I started quite a long time ago now, gosh, probably 15 years ago. And I started it to honor the group of people who had spent 25 years of doing our own inner research into learning about our own inner guidance system, receiving these energy downloads and systems, and being willing to live in alignment with our own inner guidance. And while we did that collectively, it's an individual journey. And so my starting the Baca Institute was partly because I had been initiated as the Grand Master for this lineage. I just knew that there were aspects that needed to go out in a bigger way. And so it houses everything from the Turiya meditations to, I teach Turiya touch around the world. I'm now doing these, what are called salons of life. And really they're salons of remembrance. They're small gatherings in people's living rooms. They're not advertised. They're not put out as come to this. They're people bringing together people that they care about. And I do these live. They're not online. They're me going, and it's an energetic experience of remembrance.
Oh, wow. I found something on the website. I don't know if it's happening or it has already happened,
What's that?
but you have the Morness Retreat in Barcelona,
No.
Spain.
Yeah,
Is
that already
coming up,
happened.
or did that always?
That already happened.
That already happened. Oh,
That
well,
already
you guys
happened.
missed
And
it.
we're going to do it again, but we haven't found the right place to do it again. We keep wanting to do it somewhere else, and we'll see. We'll see how that unfolds.
Oh, maybe
Yeah.
you need to check out the Calabria in Italy. It's a little small community. They were on for Food Fest yesterday.
Okay, you'll have to let me know about it.
Oh, yeah. It's in between Greece and Italy. So,
Okay.
yeah, it might be. I'll connect you with Anthony. That's what I'll do.
Please do.
So, Laurie, what is your final message for everybody today?
I always, when I'm asked a question like that, I always return to the breath, and that the breath has intelligence. The breath is intelligence. If you think about it, the breath knows exactly what to do when you take a breath in. It mixes, the gases mix the way they need to, it goes where it needs to. We don't have to put our head in the mix to direct it. But taking a conscious breath allows us to start tapping into, it allows our body to relax, first of all, to just soften. And then it allows us to tap into that greater creative intelligence that is right here available for us. So that's where I would end.
I like that you paused, because it gave the listeners a chance to pause.
Yes.
Sometimes the quiet, everyone says no dead time, dead time, air time is not good. But sometimes, just a simple pause, just that couple of seconds to just breathe. It makes a difference in our world.
It does. And you can do that in the middle of a board meeting.
Right?
There may be all these things going on, but no one's going to stop you and say, "What are you doing?" I'm just breathing.
I'm in tuning to myself.
Yeah.
Well, Laurie, I really want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank everybody that joined in today and brought your questions. I could not do this without you guys. I will be back next week, and we'll do this all over again with 4 new guests next week. I believe we have 4 shows next week, so 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Thursday. But we're going to just do a little wrap up of what today's tea time was, and a little food for thought for all of you guys to take home. What a deeply expansive and thoughtful, provoking conversation. Laurie, thank you for reminding us that clarity does not always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from listening more deeply. Your work invites us to trust our inner knowing and to recognize that the answers we search for externally often begins within. This afternoon, we were reminded that connection is not something we have to earn. It is something we already are. When we slow down and tune in, we begin to access a level of awareness and can guide our decisions, our creativity, and our purpose. To everyone listening, here is something to reflect on after this tea time. What might change in your life if you trusted your inner guidance as much as you trust outside opinions? Until our next cup, share, keep listening, keep trusting, and keep reminding the connection that lives within you. And I'll see you guys, and we'll do this all over again next week.
Thank you.